But we'll take a break. And Kevin, would you stay on, because our special guest tonight will be of interest to you, because we'll be talking after the break with the well-known author Johanna Nicholls. But she's famous not only in her own right, but she's the daughter of somebody much loved in Australia. And Kevin, you might like to join in the conversation with us after we... I well remember about 3 years ago reading the wonderful Australian novel Ironbark, and I think it was the first historical novel by Johanna Nicholls, and I'm thrilled to say she's written one now called Ghost Gum Valley. Now, it is a work of fiction, but it's set against a background of real-life events and people in the 1830s. John Blackman would remember, because he was around in those days.
Well, that's when you got your seniors card, didn't you, Phil, back then?
So I've invited Kevin Trask to stay back, because, Kevin, you'll be fascinated with Johanna's story, because she's also the daughter of Freddie Parsons, who wrote for Graham Kennedy, Roy Moe, and many famous Australian comedians. And it's appropriate not only to say good evening to you, Johanna, but also to your mind of Mike McColl Jones, because he and Freddie were as thick as thieves, as you'd know. So, to both of you, great to see you.
Hello, Philip.
Thank you.
Hello, John. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Mike McColl Jones, without a hyphen.
Thank you.
Now, Johanna, you, I believe, Mike and Johanna, there's something like the entire population of Blackwood's listening tonight.
They are,
right?
yes. We've been up at the Blackwood Hotel, which is owned and operated by Hines and Ange.
Yes.
They made us very welcome.
I hope you had separate rooms, did you?
Oh, yes.
Yes,
yes.
right. Yeah.
And we had a lovely time.
Absolutely.
The reason for Blackwood, of course, is Freddie. Freddie's father was the parson at Blackwood.
He was a Parsons parson.
Yes, that's right. And so Dad had his childhood there, and he loved the place so much he kept coming back to it. And I had my childhood holidays there.
So did they call him Parson?
Yes, actually, he got a lot of nicknames like that, yes.
And your novels are generally set in, you know, the mid-1830s and all that sort of stuff. What is the attraction? What's the attraction for you there?
I think, quite honestly, it was the stories that Dad told me when we went to Blackwood about the bushrangers and that, because I was more interested in that colonial era than the era I grew up in. And there were so many stories, and theatrical stories that Dad told me too, that actually have found their way into that book, like the last appearance from Edmund Kean on stage, where he actually collapsed in the arms of his son in a performance of Othello. Well, Dad told me these stories, and I thought as a kind of tribute to him, my love of the bush and also my love of theatre.
Yes.
His stories have gone into that book.
You can combine them. I was reading through the book over the weekend, and I said to John, I said, it's got the makings of a great movie, Johanna.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I've recast it in my mind many times, and I've actually visualised it. I believe, quite honestly, I believe it will be a movie one day.
Or a television series, perhaps.
Yeah, more appropriate, like an 8-parter. Now, Kevin, you love the book,
I love the book. I envy anyone who starts a book and finishes it, but the characters are terrific, and setting against those colonial times, but I love the background of the recruiting. Is it recruiting officer, the first play ever produced in Australia?
Yes, that's right, with a convict cast.
Yes, in Sydney, and that's a play in itself.
Yes.
But you've created some great characters here. It's a sort of book that you would pick up at the airport on a long trip and finish reading it and just love every page. It's well done. I think it's a great book.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Tell us about the dedication at the front of the book, and why you wrote it. Is that in memory of your dad, Freddie?
Yes, it was very much inspired by my dad, because he had a huge admiration for actors, actresses, and comedians. So it's in honour of the creativity and courage of actors, actresses, and comedians through the ages, and special tribute to the First Fleet convicts and Marines who performed the first play. That's the recruiting officer. And in memory of the very quixotic father of Australian theatre, Barnett Levy, which Dad told me so many stories about too. I just love the whole early history. As a matter of fact, my father used to do the washing up with me. When I got into trouble, I was given the washing up chore.
Yes.
But Dad made it lovely for me by telling me old theatrical stories. And one day, he was telling me, he said, do you know there was an actor right back in the gold rush era who used to play Othello the Moor and Iago the white man on stage at the same time? And I said, Dad, but how could that happen? He said, I'll show you. And he got out the boot polish and he put boot polish, blackened half of his face and turned the profile. And this is what the actor actually did.
Like the Phantom of the Opera today with the mask.
We had an act like that on Red Faces once. Exactly the same thing. You did Michael Jackson one side and then I can't remember Elvis the other side.
That's right. So he did this performance in the kitchen. And of course my mother came in and saw my father covered in boot polish, ranting and raving in the kitchen. She honestly thought he'd gone raving mad.
Dorothy would have wondered what was going on.
Yes.
Mike, tell us about your fond affection for Freddie Parsons.
Well, Freddie I used to call Kit Kat, because Freddie had a delightful stutter, which he used to his advantage many times. One time the boss stopped him in the corridor. He was unhappy about a sketch that Graham had done the night before. And Mr. Bednall said, Freddie, that sketch we had last night, I wasn't very happy about. What have you got to say? And Freddie went, Mr. Bednall said, oh, forget it. But I used to call Freddie Kit Kat because he'd be standing at a queue in the canteen and you knew that when he was ordering a Kit Kat, he'd take 20 minutes to do Kit, and he still had Kat to go.
But he was a very delightful man.
Tell everyone the story about the day I introduced Johanna to Freddie.
Well,
that was in the canteen.
I think it's best that you. Well, because you were the perpetrator.
And I'm here with Johanna and getting to know her, and she'd flown down from Sydney, and I said, Johanna, as Freddie walked into the canteen, I said, I'd love you to meet Freddie Parsons. She said, I already know him. He is my father. It's a lovely story, isn't it?
It's wonderful.
It's exactly how it happened. You know how polite I am, Kevin.
Oh, yes.
I want everyone to know each other.
Wonderful.
And back to Ghost Gum Valley, the book is published by Simon & Schuster.
Yes.
And obviously will be of great interest, I would imagine, overseas.
Yes, as a matter of fact, it's going to be published in Germany, as Ironbark was, early next year.
Yes.
And I really think the translators, I admire them enormously to be able to get around Australian slang of the period.
Well, exactly.
And from go to woe, Joanna, how long did it take you to write this book?
2 years, but with a break between.
Right.
Yes.
And you had to do an enormous amount of research, I would imagine, or does that come naturally to you?
Well, the theatrical stuff I was able to draw on very much from Dad, but I did a lot of research with the characters of the real life characters that are in it. So the governor, Barnett Levy, and Samuel Terry, who was called the Botany Bay Rothschild, was a real person who was the richest man in Australia at the time. And so I've patterned my fictional character as the second richest man. So I've got both fictional.
It's
and
very interesting
non-fictional.
because it's set around the same era as the Castlereagh line, which we have on 3AW every night.
There's a bit of swearing in that, though, unfortunately.
And
I heard about that.
I see from this novel, Ghost Gum Valley, with the characters, you've really left it open for, I think, a sequel. Haven't you?
Very clever.
Oh, you are clever.
I think you have, yes.
Yes.
I think so.
To be honest, I didn't know until I got to the final chapter how it was going to end.
Yeah.
And when I finished, I thought, there was a sequel here.
Yeah, well, I thought so too. And
What it features actually a stagecoach heading headlong towards a cliff. I'm sorry to blow the ending for everybody.
no, it's one of those rare books where you hate it to end. You think, I wish it could go on forever.
And your home is actually an 1830s convict-built sandstone cottage in Birchgrove, so you're really actually sort of living that era.
Yes, as a matter of fact, sometimes I hear noises in the kitchen, and I've actually mentally placed the Indian servant who was Marmaduke's nanny and mother figure, and I think of her little cottage, which is actually mine.
Yes.
And so when I hear noises in the kitchen, I think, oh, that's Queenie making dinner.
Right.
It's not exactly a real visual ghost, but there are. I think old houses have an aura.
And a listener has phoned in too, Joanna, just wanting to know: was the whole town grieving at your your grandfather, right?
Yes.
The whole town was grieving at Parsons. Sorry. That's very clumsily set up gag.
Now, let me tell you, Johanna, Kevin Trask is a very well-known theatre producer around here, and I thought it'd be cute maybe if you'd consider producing The Recruiting Officer, which I don't imagine has been done, since 1789.
Oh, it has actually. It is a play, and it has been performed.
Oh, more recently,
recreated,
has it?
yes, within the last 10 years. But it certainly is an interesting piece of history. I notice you've broken the book into 2 parts. You've got book 2 halfway through, and I thought, now what's going on here? And I love the way you flash back from London to Australia and what's happening in both parts of the world, because that trip from London to Australia would have been about a 3 month trip by boat.
Yes.
So, I like that
And
style.
you're bringing together 2 characters who don't want to marry you and have
That's
the
right.
idea of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you have to build it up
Now-
to show
Yes.
how
I like that.
good.
Well, I don't think I've ever read that style of book before. It was good.
It's sort of Australia's gone with the wind, isn't it?
Kind of thing. Well, it's thick enough. How many pages, Phil? Just turn to the last page.
Oh, well, that doesn't tell you anything.
No, it doesn't.
It's over 531
Because
pages.
Phil's writing his book. It's going really well. He's already got the page numbers done, which is terrific. Now,
Yeah, but I haven't bought the crayons yet.
Totally off topic here, Mike. Now, you got into the building all right. Now, Phil left your name at the front desk here at Fairfax House.
Yes, he did. The security man.
Yeah, he's from Istanbul.
There was a bit of a shock this week with you.
Tell me why.
You rushed into Shane Healy's office and threatened to stay.
Now, I just want to highly recommend the book. I'm a slow reader, so, but I do recommend a truly Australian story, and this is Ghost Gum Valley. Not really a sequel to Ironbark, but it's got the same feeling about it, hasn't it?
Yes.
And you had the chance to win a trip on the game to the heart of Australia when you purchased the book.
Yes, it's very close to being announced, so people would need to buy a copy very quickly.
Oh, well,
yes.
absolutely. But
Yes.
you could buy it now from any good bookseller in Australia.
Yes.
And are you doing any book signings while you're in Melbourne, Johanna?
If anybody asks me, I'll be there, absolutely.
Well, I'll get you to sign mine during the commercial break for a start.
And is that a picture of Isabel, the main character on the cover? She's kind of cute.
Yes, that is Isabel, and it's extraordinary is that my publisher, Larissa Edwards, chose the cover, but it was exactly as I had imagined Isabel. It was astonishing.
So there was no collaboration or anything?
I didn't know, no.
Oh,
and
wow.
I just said, but that's her.
Oh, that's freaky, isn't it?
It is really weird.
But weren't things grim back in 1833 in the penal colony, I mean?
Yes.
And worse, I believe, worse on Norfolk Island than they were here, I'm told.
Yes,
If you
absolutely.
can believe it or not.
Yes.
So if you're looking for a thoroughly good read and you love the Australian flavour from all those years ago, this is a book for you, Johanna Nicholls, Ghost Gum Valley. We'll take a break now, and then we'll come back and talk about your dad and his association with Graham Kennedy and Roy Moe. And this is Remember When, and we're talking to Johanna Nicholls with Mike McColl-Jones. John Blackman is our special guest tonight, and Kevin Trask by arrangement with 3INR. Now, let's talk about your dad, Freddie Parsons, the comedy writer. And Mike, tell us about Freddie's involvement with Graham Kennedy. Did you organise that for
No,
Freddie?
not at all. No, Freddie came in before I started. Freddie came in when Buster came in, Buster Fidesz.
Yeah.
And they asked Buster who he suggested as a writer, and Buster suggested and recommended Freddie.
Right.
So Freddie joined about 2 years before I started.
And you were really writing for Graham and the opening remarks where Freddie was writing
mainly the
sketch comedy and historical sketches.
And I mean, the amazing thing about Freddie was that often the producer would come to Freddie and say, look, we've had an act drop out, we need a sketch. And Freddie would literally disappear to his office, type up but create a sketch for 8 to 10 characters.
Yes.
And hand it to the producer in half an hour.
And it's still
It's
talked
just
about
amazing.
today, John. You know, whether those sketches
Well,
about
period
William
sketches.
Tell or
periods.
Henry VIII.
Henry VIII and Julius Caesar. I remember you in that fetching toga.
Oh, thank you very much for that.
But Buster Fidesz, now was he on Sunny Side Up at some stage, or?
Look, he might have been originally, but he came from Channel 7 in Sydney.
Yeah, but he had that lovely rubbery face, didn't he?
Oh, lovely, yes. He couldn't handle dialogue because of his memory, I think. But he was a beautiful sight comic. And he was a great friend of Freddie's.
Sure.
And Freddie, in fact, Freddie in his office had this big bottle of black liquid, and I wasn't game enough to even ask him what it was. I thought it was ink. And it turned out to be Brocchi's ulcer cure, and both Buster and Jack Little had ulcers, and they used to pop into Freddie's office and have a swig when they needed to.
All right. Kevin, you want to ask something about Graham and Freddie?
Or the ulcers?
Oh, no, not the ulcers. I could say, was he a mentor to you?
Freddie?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Freddie taught me, not only taught me, but we sat in the canteen together probably 3 or 4 times a day, having copious cups of tea. When I started, they were 5 cents a cup of tea. And Freddie told the most amazing show business stories, and never repeated one to me over all those years. If he did repeat it, he'd usually say, "Mike's heard this before." Yeah.
Well, now in the 2 minutes we have left, just tell us about Freddie and Roy Rene.
Well, Roy Rene was, to me, was Uncle Roy, because I knew him from a little tiny girl, and I sort of grew up with that background of going to the Tivoli and watching everybody at rehearsals, because Dad was stage manager as well.
Yeah, in Sydney, perhaps.
Yes. Yeah. When they came into radio, Dad went into radio first, and Roy was left behind at the Tivoli. But when he came over to join him, the shows became the top comedy shows in Australia, and Dad was asked to write by his producer something that might run 3 weeks, a series. So he, by himself, he wrote one Sunday afternoon something that was called Macaque Mansion. He developed all the characters, and as you know Dad well, he stuttered very heavily. But when he read it out to me, because I was the first person to ever hear it, Mum was in the kitchen and she was too busy. Dad couldn't wait, and he said, "I want to try it out on you." He did all the voices, but he never stuttered when he acted, or when he did television or radio.
Singers are the same. John and I know a well-known singer who can't get a sentence out, but give him sheet music and he's word perfect.
It's a bit like accents as well. Yeah, they don't hear them while they're singing. That's a remarkable story.
And so you would have known people like Harry Griffith and Jack Burgess and all the characters in Macaque Mansions.
Absolutely. And do you know that I spoke to Harry Griffith today by phone, and he asked specially to give his regards to you. He said, he won't remember me, but I met him at Channel 9.
Oh, yes, I knew Harry. Yes. He'd be in his 90s now.
He still sounds like a boy.
Yes, he's fantastic. Folks, we're going to play a Macaque Mansion sketch in a moment, and that'll bring back memories for so many of our listeners, and particularly remembering that Freddie wrote every sketch that Moe did on radio. Although I heard at one time that Roy Rene couldn't read, he had to memorise his lines. Is that true?
He did memorise. He could read, but it was slow, and he would underline with a blue pencil every word. He'd seen actors underline words for emphasis, but he underlined everything. So,
so your father created some great characters: Spencer the Garbage Man, Horrible Herbie, and all those wonderful people.
And you're going to hear them. And Johanna and Mike, thanks very much for coming in tonight to have a chat with us, especially about Ghost Gun Valley. Can't wait to pass it on to a friend to read. And also, Kevin, good of you to stay back.
Enjoy.
John and I will be back after the news, but right now, where are you, young Harry? It's time for Macaque Mansions.
Hey, Dad! Where are you, Dad? Here I am, Dad Harry! Hey, Dad, I'm doing my homework. Tell me, are trousers singular or plural?
Well, Harry, that's a very ambiguous question.
Yeah, but what's the answer? Are trousers singular or plural?
Well, trousers are singular at the top and plural at the bottom. Harry, have you seen my umbrella?
Your umbrella? No, Dad. Where did you leave it?
Strike me lucky if I knew that. I'd look there. I'm very attached to that umbrella. It reminds me of the widow next door.
How do you mean?
A lot of skinny ribs covered by black cloth. Oh, bloody, I wish you could find the umbrella. I can't go without it.
Dad, when you come back, bring home 2 loaves of bread, please, will you?
Now, what would I look like? Walking along the street with a loaf of bread under each arm.
A ham sandwich.
Harry, comdey. Oh!
Hello, Moe.
Oh, bloody. Herbie. A bigger pest than cockroaches.
Why, what's the matter, Moe? What have you lost?
A long big thing with the hook at the top.
Your photograph.
I'm not horrible. It's just a gab tar. Nothing but a gab tar.
What's a gab tar?
A backward rat bag.
Take a bill, everybody. It's little me, Spencer, the garbage man.
Oh, it's Spencer here.
Yes, Mr. McSee, I've been in hospital suffering from shock.
I know why. They gave me a bath.
One, they gave me 3. I was mortified.
I bet the water was too.
Did you have many visitors in the hospital, Spence?
No, Herbert, I don't think they knew I was there.
It's a wonder they didn't get rid of it. Oh, pew!
By a curious coincidence, my Uncle Harrico was in the same hospital in the next bed.
Was it really, Spence?
Yes.
I suppose he was able to stroke your brow and hold your little hand.
No, they wouldn't let him out of the straitjacket.
Spencer, did you get the lovely present I sent you? I was going to send you one of my fattest chickens, but I couldn't. It got better.
Well, what did you send him, Moe?
A bottle of cherries, pickled with alcohol.
Oh, yes, Mr. McSee, and I'd like to thank you.
Oh, don't worry about the Spence.
Not so much for the cherries themselves,
No.
as for the spirit in which they were sent. Well, I must be going now. I'm still very weak.
But from where I'm standing... Well, so long, Spence. Don't see me frame an umbrella.
Why do you want an umbrella, Moe? You never used to carry one.
But as a matter of fact, I've been elected chairman of the Society for the Suppression of Vice. And I've got to look the part, reverent and dignified.
You, chairman of the Society for the Suppression of Vice? Gosh, Moe, will you have mutton chop whiskers?
Certainly. Mutton chop whiskers with tomato sauce. Now, where's me flaming umbrella? The caddy without an umbrella is like Nashwood without his... Oh, strike me lucky he's in again. Lasho, have you seen my umbrella?
Do you leave your house every morning in a silk umbrella?
No, I leave me bed every evening in a silk nightie. Sleepwalker?
Hi, Mr. Lashford, come here. Our Moe's been made chairman of the Society for the Suppression of Vice.
Oh, congratulations, McCarthy. What's your official title?
I'm a Reswell.
Reswell? Reswell? What's a Reswell?
A backward rouser. Oh, I wish I could find my umbrella or remember where I left it.
Well, perhaps you left it in the kitchen sink to dry.
No, I looked at the kitchen sink first thing this morning.
What did you find?
Horrible Herbie having a bath.
Hey, Moe, y'all forget that. Well, once before you left your umbrella in the fowl house, remember?
Yes, but that was when I was giving our broody hen the afternoon off. Dear, I do need the umbrella. The Anti-Vice Society are giving a meeting today and I have to give a lecture. And I must look dignified with my umbrella in one hand and my tambourine in the other.
What's the tambourine, Moe?
A kettle drum with knobs on. But I can't give the lecture unless I've got my umbrella.
You've got to have your knowledge in the town hall.
No. I'm going to have me secret on the back porch. Shimmy show.
Hey, Moe, what are you going to lecture on?
The curse of the 3 B's. Betting, booze and bathing girl.
That's not much to talk about. What follows after bathing girl?
Bathing boys. Oh, I wish I could find my umbrella. If I don't get there soon, the meeting will be over and the lemonade will be off.
McCacky, maybe somebody found your umbrella and has advertised it here in the paper. I'll have a look. Oh, look at this.
What, the umbrella?
No, a news item. Last night, the police made a surprise raid on a notorious King's Cross opium den.
Strike me lucky. Now I remember where I left my umbrella.
Great memories there of Roy Rene, McCacky Mansions and all that, so that's great, and we're just seeing Johanna Nicholls off the premises.